Ndasya Yananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Manashaksha part 5 today. We are still discussing the importance of Manashiksha. This is one of the themes. Before we have discussed the introduction by Sachinandan Swami Maharaj and the overview of Manashiksha by Shivram Swami Maharaj. Now the importance of Manashiksha is what we began our discussion yesterday. And yesterday we discussed how Mahaprabhu has come to give us the Raga Marga Bhakti. Vrajera Nirmal Raga Shuni Bhaktagan Raga Marg Vaje Yani Chadi Dharma Karma. So this, certainly Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and his disciples followed. They were followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But what is the controversy? And we went to the Jaiva Dharma, because in the Jaiva Dharma it is mentioned how there is the Antapanta and the Bahipanta given from Mahaprabhu to Sarup Damodar to Vakreshwar Pandit to Gopal Guru Goswami, and Gopal Guru Goswami to Dhyan Chandra Goswami, who composed what is the Sri Gaur Govinda Archana Paddhati. And the Antapanta was given by Sarup Damodar to Raghunath Das Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami composed Manashiksha. So yesterday we saw why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. First of all, we saw that that there are no these two different mutually exclusive paths. There is similarities, and they are not. Some say that those who are practicing the Bhaya Pantha, they have nothing to do with the Anta Pantha. So there is nothing like that. There is, similarities. So yesterday we saw the common things between the two things, and then we saw the differences. So what are the common in both cases we saw yesterday? And now we'll come to the differences in today's section. So let us go to text 20, slide 23, not text 23. Okay, there is some problem. Let me reopen the slides. Okay, I don't know why this has happened. Yeah. Okay, we have to discuss from 23 onwards, slide number. Yes. So yesterday we saw the similarities. Now let's go to the differences. Yeah. The main difference is that the outer exoteric path is all about the details of what the practitioner should do, say, and think about. So this is the first main difference in the exoteric path. There are details of practitioner, what he should do while doing the deity worship, what he should say, and what he should be thinking about. The inner esoteric path has brief and general prescriptions of what to do, say, and think about, being mostly about the deep inner changes of motive, drive, and desire that occur within as the path is traversed. So the Bhaya Pantha, as the name itself suggests, the external, there are more like external activities. Of course, thinking is there, but there are more external activities. But in the inner path, the Anta Pantha, given by Raghunath Das Goswami, there is general prescriptions, what to do, say, and think. But mostly it is deep inner changes of motive, desire, and drive. The inner path has the additional explicit qualifications in the beginning. So the inner path has something additional. What is that? Of giving up pride. Having rati. Rati means deep attraction to Guru. Goshte means, Vrindavan Dham. Goshtaleshu, the pure devotees residing there. Sujane are the other Vaishnavas. Then the Bhusaragane, the Brahmanas. Swamantre, deep attraction for chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And Swamantre, Swanamni. Swamantra refers to the Gayatri Mantra and Swanamna refers to Hare Krishna. And Vraja Nava Yuva Dvanda. So the Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So deep attraction. So this is the explicit qualification mentioned in the inner path. And already have spontaneous attraction for Krishna and Vrindavan. I already mentioned that. So these are very clear in the beginning. All of which are notably absent in Sri Gaurarchana Smarana Paddhati. So without having the qualifications, internal purification of the heart, one can simply do these external activities mentioned in the Bhaya Pantha and think that he is very exalted without having the internal purification of the heart. So that's one drawback you can see between these two paths. Certainly the two paths could be combined, with the exoteric path supplying the details for outer practice, and the inner path supplying the transformations which happen while engaged in that practice. So there is a combination. Now you can see that the external path can give us what all meditations we should do, what all we should think, what all. The inner path can give us the transformations which happen with the practice. But there can be practices without the inner transformation. That is the problem with the external path. There is no doubt that the outer path is dependent on the inner path for success. Yes, the outer path, that is the external path, is dependent on the inner path. because the inner purification, if it has not happened, then no matter how much externals you do, it will not bring you success. However, the inner path is not so dependent on the outer path. It is quite independent. It is not so dependent. The inner path, by its very nature, cannot be either imitated or ritualized. So this inner path you just cannot imitate, or you cannot just do external rituals and claim yourself we are in the exalted path of Siddha Bhajan or Raganuga Bhakti. You cannot do that in the inner paths. Where in the outer path, you can do imitations, and there are just set of activities in the DT version, Archana meditation. So you can just be doing those external and be claiming that you're on a very exalted platform of devotion. Also, as the external behaviors prescribed for this path are very general, there is a broad scope for application to time, place, and circumstances. Desha Kala Patra. Because there is a very general description of the behavior. So it can be applied in different time, place, and circumstances. This is how the Vedic text also designed. They are very, very broad, like the million mothers, like the ocean, the heart. Expanse of the heart can be thought of like a huge ocean. So like that, the application is very, very broad. Of great importance is the fact that the superficial behaviors of those on the inner path can be almost indistinguishable from persons who are practitioners of Vaidhi Bhakti. So, just by the external behavior of somebody, he might be internally practicing Raganuga Bhakti by the inner path, but by his external superficial behavior, you can never figure out whether he is on Raga Bhakti. And anyone who is at the stage of Raganuga sadhana, he will never proclaim nor disclose that, except to his confidential spiritual master and Shiksha Gurus. That which is confidential should be always secret. If it is not held secret, then you'll lose that value. So those who are having adhikar for the spontaneous bhakti, Raganuga sadhana, they externally by their behavior, you cannot really figure out until somebody who's on that platform only who can recognize it. So they look like Vaidhi sadhakas practicing all the rules and regulations, what the other new bhaktas and all other devotees are doing, but internally they are very deep in their bhajan, they are deep in their absorption of thinking, absorption of Krishna, and deep in their meditation also. This we cannot figure out. Whereas in the Bhayapanta, the external path, just by the external behaviors, you show that you are very exalted, but internally you might not be. Therefore, those who are attached to the outer path or do not know the inner path may then think that those who follow the inner path are not the Raga Marg at all, not on the Raga Marg at all. So those who are attached to the Bhayapanta or who are not aware of the Antapanta, they may think, oh, these are not practicing Raganuga Bhakti. We are practicing Raganuga Bhakti. So Raganuga Bhakti, is very, very confidential. I will take a short, before we start the Manashiksha verses, on a short discussion on Raganuga Bhakti, because many devotees will have question, oh, we are not qualified for all Raganuga Bhakti. So are we qualified to hear Manashiksha? So this point I will address in a separate session, maybe after this session. So that time we will take it up. Okay, now let us come to the historical misuse of the external path. Now, any questions regarding the topic regarding the differences in the two paths and these points what we discussed up till now. Any questions, any clarifications? Hey, Virendra Yadav Swaruji. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavata Pranam. Prabhu, when we are practicing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and still Anartha Nivritti is in progress, in that case, Prabhu, our endeavors, it's looks like external only. I mean, so what we say, whether we are following exoteric or esoteric, how do we see this?
Again, I mentioned, let us take up when I take this separate theme on Raganuga Bhakti. That time we'll take it up. But let's stick to the content of this 3 slides. We will take up, kindly hold on for your question for another session. Okay. Any other points regarding these points? I want you all to understand the subject, the differences between the two paths. Anything which you have not understood in that? Anyone else has any questions? Okay, so then we will further continue the discussion. Okay. The historical misuse of the external path. Okay. From the above analysis, it is readily apparent why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did not teach the outer path to his followers, but in many places and in many ways gave instructions that parallel the inner path. Let us examine the specific ways in which the outer path was misused in Bhaktisiddhanta's time and still is today, especially in the holy dhams of Vrindavan and Jagannath Puri and Mayapur. You see this, prompting his emphasis on the inner path. The first use is an exclusive or nearly exclusive emphasis on attainment of the mood of Radha's Manjari Gopis. So in the Bhayapanta, without the purification of the heart, where you have not crossed Anartha Nivritti, you have not realized yourself, and without having a particular mood you have not developed, where you are attracted to the particular mood of the eternal devotees and you are inclined to follow in their footsteps, you are given, you have a Manjari form, this is your identity, this is your form, this is your dress, everything, you know. So there is only exclusive Manjari Gopi forms. In Braj Bhakti, especially Mahaprabhu who has come to give, he has come to give us 4 rasas. Sakya, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhuri. And the top is Madhurya. But somebody has a mood of Sakya Ras, you know, by his own nature, because every Jiva is an individual. And when he becomes Adhikar for practicing Raganuga Bhakti, he has more inclination for the Sakya Ras. So then he has no, qualification to practice Raganuga Bhakti then, because in the Bhayapanta, there is emphasis given on only the mood of the Manjari Gopis. Even the mood of Radha, Sakhi Gopis is usually excluded, often with some disdain. What to speak of the mood of parental, friendly, and servant love. Instead of a guru aiding a practitioner to unfold and nurture an individual's own spontaneously awakened mood. So guru just aids the practitioner with the attainment of Nishtha. One is self-realized. You have realized that you are not the body or the spirit soul. Then the spirit soul, spiritual development of the body begins. That is Raganuga Bhakti. And he knows now his constitutional, that is a spirit soul, but he knows also he has attraction to a particular mood. And he's regularly hearing the 10th canto where he's relishing maybe Vatsalya pastimes, and he's reading more those pastimes. So the practitioner himself unfolds and nurtures his own individual spontaneous mood. But in the Bhayapanta, a pseudo guru prescribes the same generic Manjari Gopi mood for everyone. The second misuse is defining Raganuga sadhana exclusively as solitary bhajan with specific prayers and meditation in a specific order. So this is the second misuse. Oh, if you want to practice Ragana Bhakti, you have to give up everything. Just come to Vrindavan and exclusively just do bhajan and do this prayers and meditation all the time. So this is quite there. And even, recently I was just at the Madan Mohan temple, and I went down to Sanatan Goswami's Bhajan Kutir, and I was just sitting and chanting. So there was one Babaji, a young Babaji, you can say, and he was instructing some grihasthas. I was carefully hearing what he was speaking. All was according to Siddhanta, frankly speaking. But when he saw me that for a long time I was sitting and chanting, then while I got up, I just paid obeisances because they are Vaishnavas, and I was leaving. So he was instructing me that, oh, you study Jiva Goswami's Harinamamrit Vyakaran for 2-3 years here, and study the Sandarbhas, and just be here and do bhajan. That is the real goal of life. But this is not the mood of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada. While in the outer world, preaching, at the same time also practicing, inviting newer members in the family of Krishna's family. That is what Krishna likes. That is very dear to Krishna. So somebody who is also doing activities of preaching, book distribution, he will be completely, utterly disqualified for Raghunath Sadhana because they exclusively say solitary bhajan. Here the point is that even a preacher or teacher of Krishna consciousness would be disqualified from being a practitioner of Raghunath Bhakti in this concept. What to speak of a householder with a job or business? So even full-time preachers will be disqualified if you have this exclusive bhajan concept, which is there in the Bhayapanta. That's the point. Any point which I'm discussing the slide, at any time, if you feel you have a question, you can raise your hand. I'm just going step by step. There are even many persons in the line of Bhakti Siddhanta who misunderstand Raghunaga Sadhana Bhakti according to those two ways in which the external path has been misinterpreted and applied as explained above. So even in the line of Bhakti Siddhanta and even in ISKCON today, sometimes, they misunderstand Raghunaga Sadhana. That's why it is very important that we understand this. However, it is this next third area of misunderstanding and misapplication where confusion has been compounded. So what is that third area? The third area where the external path has been misapplied is in how a person starts the Rag path and the relation among the path itself, the guru or gurus, and the practitioner. We recall that both the external and the internal paths, a relationship with the guru or gurus is required. Actually, to begin our spiritual life, the first anga of bhakti is Ado Guru Pad Ashraya, that we have to take shelter of a spiritual master. Then Bhajana Shiksha, Diksha and Bhajana Shiksha, and Vishrambena Guru Seva. The first three limbs are the most important limbs in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So even as a Vaidhi Sadhana practitioner, one requires assistance, instruction from the spiritual masters, whether it is Shiksha, Diksha Guru, or the counselors or the spiritual mentors. But as one becomes qualified for Raganuga Bhakti, he now requires more guidance from his spiritual teachers. Because now the path is a fine line where you have to traverse, right? And you need to know the lot of inner intricacies. So gurus are required. Instruction from and meditation on sadhus, whether physically present on the earth or departed, is also required in both paths. However, neither Gaura Govinda Archana Smaran Padati nor in Manah Shiksha do we find clear or explicit instructions about what role specifically one's gurus might or must play in the development of an individual's Ragman, beyond the giving of holy name and mantras. We do find general statement, for example, in the Sri Mukta Charitram of Raghunath Das Goswami. There are some general instructions given by Raghunath Das Goswami. What is it? Let us see. Nama Shreshtam Manum Api Sachiputra Matra Swarupam Shri Rupam Tasyagrajam Purim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Aho Radhika Madhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi. So there is some general instruction of how the Guru guides. And this verse is speaking that. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master. Shri Guru Tam Natosmi. By whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name. Prapto Yasya. What? I have received Nam Shreshtam, the divine mantra, the service to the son of Sachi Mata. See, Api Sachi Putram, the association of Srila Sarup Damodar, Atra Sarupam, Rupa Goswami and his elder brother Sanatan Goswami. Shri Rupam Tasya Agrajam. Agrajam means the elder brother. The supreme abode of Mathura, Uru Purim Mathurim. The blissful abode of Vrindavan, Goshtavatam, Goshtavatim. Goshta means refers to the place where there are always cows, Vrindavan. The divine Radha Kundam and Govardhan Hill, Girivaram, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Sri Radha and Madhav in Vrindavan. Aho Radha Madhava Mahasanam. So this is just a prayer to the spiritual master by which we have gotten this. This is a general instruction. This is one sample which is mentioned. There is no specific instructions as to what role the gurus play, but there are general statements, and this is a reference given here. From the word prapto, a reader could infer the guru gives a siddha pranali initiation when the disciple is told his or her eternal name, form, dress, and so forth, the 11 items of identity. So this Siddha Pranali is what is called as Ekadasha Bhava. Ekadasha means 11. And Bhava means your spiritual form. At the stage of Bhava, your spiritual form is revealed to you. Your rasa with Krishna is fully manifest, and you're reciprocating rasa with Krishna, whether it is Dasya, Satya, Vatsalya, or Madhurya. So your spiritual form, whether it is like a Saka or like an elderly gopi or a Manjari, that is clear. Then your age, your group, your dress, your service. So like that, these are 11 items. So what is Siddha Pranali? Siddha means, perfection. Pranali means, it is a method or methodology. Siddha Pranali initiation this is where the deviation is, that those who have not qualified still, they have under Nivriti, these followers of Bhaya Pantha, and especially the Babajis in Vrindavan, Radhakund, Jagannath Puri and Mayapur, not much in Mayapur, but in Jagannath Puri and Vrindavan, it is more there. They give somebody who doesn't have adhikar even to practice Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, in the beginning stages of their initiation, they give, oh, this is your name, this is your identity, this is your dress. So now you start meditating on it in doing your practices. First of all, the purification of the heart has not happened. You have not practiced Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and anarth nivritti has not happened. So instead of doing good to the disciple, they destroy the disciple's spiritual life itself. So just as like in Ashtanga Yoga, there is Yam, Niyam, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar. And Yama, Niyam are like the rules, do's and don'ts. Then there is Asana, mastering the body. So the body is the gross thing. So you have to master it and make it steady for the mind to focus on meditation. Then there is Pranayam. Pranayam is to master the air, subtle airs in the body. Now, without mastering the gross body, you cannot master the subtle airs. The airs are subtle. So first you have to master the gross, then master the subtle. But if you try to master the subtle without mastering the gross, then there will be incompatibility. Similarly, without the purification of the heart by crossing the anarth stage, if somebody is given Siddha Pranali, then it will not do any good to him. Once I remember I was traveling in a train. It was a long journey. I remember it was almost like 15 hours traveling. So I was reading and chanting back and forth. And I was coming to Vrindavan, in fact. And there was one devotee. He was not like from the Gaudiya line or the ISKCON, connected to ISKCON. So he saw me and then he came next to me and he started preaching to me. And he said, why are you doing all these activities? Just do smaran. My guru has told me, constantly just do smaran. And he was repeatedly hammering on me on this. And then whatever he was speaking also, his realizations seemed to be quite deep. His understanding also was quite deep. I just kept on patiently hearing him and then continued with my activities of reading or either chatting. Back and forth I was going. And repeatedly he was coming to my seat and repeatedly requesting me, just go into Smaran. I'm just doing Smaran, you see. No need of chanting, no need of all these, just go into deep absorption of Krishna. So I was pretty sure, because I had heard from my teachers and studied the Shastras, especially Prabhupada books, it was very clear. So he went on, and at last we reached Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, by the time we reached, he fell sick. And we got down and then we together went in the rickshaw. And I took him to Ramakrishna Mission Hospital and admitted him there. And there, he could not remember. So without doing Shravan and Kirtan, engaging our senses in Krishna's service, without sadhana bhakti, how, Smaran is Shravanam, Kirtanam, and then Smaranam comes. Smaranam is very, very exalted stage. So with the internal purification had happened. So the gurus who confer this Siddha Pranali to the disciple, they are told these 11 items. However, one could just as easily infer that the awakening and realization of the 11 items of an eternal end happen from following our Guru's general or specific instructions. So, prapto can mean two things. Directly getting the Siddha Pranali, or it can infer that the awakening and realization of these 11 items happen by following the Guru's instructions, either general or specific. There are various statements. There are statements in various places that a Raganuga sadhaka should consult with Guru or sadhus as revelations unfold, and such could also be a reasonable meaning of prapta. So this is prapta meaning. Otherwise, you can interpret, prapta means I give you Siddha Pranali, and then there is havoc and whole deviation. But prapta can also mean this general instructions or consulting from sadhus as revelation unfolds. Now, I want to give you just one example to explain this. Loknath Goswami appeared in this world prior to Mahaprabhu. He's an eternal associate from the spiritual world. Narottam Das Thakur came after Mahaprabhu left. In fact, Mahaprabhu, who got prema from Golok Vrindavan, ultimately after he left, he kept that prema storehouse in the heart of Narottam Das Thakur to spread. Narottam Das Thakur is again an eternal associate from the spiritual world. Now, in that Padmavati river, Mahaprabhu called out Narottam, Narottam, and took bath and stored Padmavati in that Padmavati river, Krishna Prem. And when Narottam took bath, Padmavati Devi bestowed that Krishna Prem, and his color also changed to golden form. So, and he was told by Mahaprabhu in his dream that he should go and take initiation from Loknath Goswami. So he ran from his house, reached Vrindavan, met his spiritual master Loknath Goswami. Every day he was chanting 2 lakh names and serving menially spiritual master. And in his meditation, as he was chanting for a long period, in his meditation, he in his spiritual body was serving in Radha Krishna's pastimes. He was boiling milk and serving it to Radha and Krishna. And in his bhajan, while boiling the milk, there was a pot and there was fire lit, and he touched the iron pan. And when he touched, because the iron pan was hot, his hands burned. So while in his bhajan, his hands burned in his meditation. But when he came out of his bhajan and meditation, he saw that his hands were actually burned. And next day, he had tied a cloth. And Loknath Goswami asked, what happened? So he felt very reserved. And then he narrated that this is in my meditation and this is what my spiritual form is. So that was a revelation for him. And Loknath Goswami confirmed, yes, this is your identity. Now, please remember, although both these eternal associates were already situated in their eternal identities, even when they came here, but yet through the process of, bhajan and gradual revelations, they were consulting their sadhus. And that is, the reasonable meaning of prapta. So we should take this reasonable meaning. That is my point. I hope this is clear. Any questions on this? Any questions or any clarifications? Everyone is able to follow, or is it finding it difficult? You can raise your hands who could follow this particular topic I discussed about prapta. Kindly raise your hands, I would like to know. Okay, many have raised their hands. Okay. Yes, okay, fine. Okay, now further. Unfortunately, deviant persons and groups, some perhaps well-intentioned, turned Siddha Pranali into a farce by giving unqualified persons a generic list of the aspects of their so-called spiritual identity. So Prapta, they took it as Siddha Pranali, and for unqualified persons, they gave this. So there is one senior devotee who's a temple president, very exalted. I know personally him for many years. I have served under him. So he was telling me that he has his friend here in Vrindavan, and he for some time came to do bhajan, and somehow he came in touch with Babaji, who gave him a Siddha Pranali. He gave him his eternal identity on all the 11 items. and it's 20 years back now. And after 20 years, they both met because they are very close friends, and they together did Parikrama of Govardhan. And this friend asked, so what happened about the identity? I've just kept that identity below my bed, that sheet of paper. And every day this devotee does Govardhan Parikrama. So what is the point of meditation on an eternal identity, Baba? You are not becoming free from the bodily conscious of life. You are not able to become free from the anarthas, kama, krodha. And what you're going to do with your eternal identity, trying to meditate, it's all a farce. So that's why, although this devotee is so senior, he's every day doing parikrama, whatever he had received, he just, kept that chit below his bed, below his pillow, forgot about it. So this Siddha Pranali is given to unqualified and with well intentions, and it can cause deviations. However, meditation on a pseudo spiritual identity not only has no value, but also impedes the awakening of one's real identity. Absolutely, what value is if you just keep on meditating, you're not able to become free from the bodily consciousness. The other thing is that it will impede one's awakening of real identity also. So you get double benefit. Double not benefit, it is disbenefit. The parody of Siddha Pranali has had ill effects for the Gaudiya Vaishnava community in generally. Equating Raganuga Sadhana with Siddha Pranali and rejecting the later leads misinformed persons to reject the former also. So they equate, if you want to practice Raganuga Bhakti, then you have to take Siddha Pranali. So if you're not taking Siddha Pranali, then you are rejecting Raganuga Bhakti also. This is the paradox. Additionally, such equating prevents Vaishnavas from recognizing a non-Siddha Pranali path as bona fide. So there is a bona fide path, which is a non-Siddha Pranali. There is no Siddha Pranali required for that. Therefore, they do not adopt the inner path even when they are qualified to do so. So those especially who come to the Dham in order to, think that they can perfect their life by, meeting these sadhus and practicing these mantras. So even if they, by regular practice, they can become qualified to take up the inner path, they will not take up because they have spoiled the broth, you can say. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur followed the inner path. So let us see how Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur followed the inner path. Any questions up till now? Any questions, any clarifications? Okay. In Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, Gaudiya Vaishnavas in general identified Raganuga sadhana primarily with the above three perversions of the external path. We saw these three perversions. In the last slide, we saw that. That is giving Siddha Pranali and they reject the former also, and equating Vaishnavas and not adopting the inner path if they are qualified also. So these are the things. Bhakti Siddhanta therefore taught the inner path of Raghunath Das Goswami. Now Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur taught the inner path of Raghunath Das Goswami. He himself composed two works I'm saying now, to carefully avoid the deviations of the outer path and stick to the inner path. Which are the two works he composed? Anyone who knows can raise their hands. Either you can speak about the two works or even one work. Anyone would like to try? To carefully avoid the inner path and carefully avoid the external path and stick to the inner path. He composed 2 works. Who knows this? I would like to see. Anyone knows the 2 works? Anyone? Krishna Path Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Is it Vaishnava K?
Yes, it is definitely Vaishnava K. And Raghunath Das Goswami used the pleading of the mind. Here, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is beating of the mind. It's heavy hammering is there. This is one. Which is the other work? To allow not to get deviated to the outer path, and you're completely doomed if you try to imitate just by the external path, thinking that you'll attain perfection, which was another work, very important work it is. Anyone knows? You know?
No, Prabhuji.
It is a very important book called as, I'm just showing a picture, and it is the Prakata Rasha Shata Dushini. 100 verses condemning of material rasa. So if you imitate that you have spiritual rasa by just following the external path, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote 100 verses. Oh, whatever you think this is spiritual rasa, it is material rasa. So this is that book, So just you should know about it. That's why I'm mentioning here. So these are the 2 works which, of course, devotees should study. Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, very important. Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Updeshamrit. And then with the permission of your spiritual masters, spiritual mentors, we should study. I especially recommend studying Shivram Swami Maharaj book, Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani, which is a very philosophical and a very practical guide. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore taught the inner path of Raghunath Das Goswami. He denounced the false practices that imitated the external path, resulting in much confusion as to whether he taught Raganuga Sadhana at all. Bhaktisiddhanta denounced the false practices which were in the Bhaya Pantha. And that's why, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came first time to Radhakund, because he was very famous personality, all the Radhakund Bhabajis had come to hear him, thinking that he'll speak Radha Krishna Leelas. He started speaking Ish Upanishads. They all left. He doesn't speak about Raganuga Bhakti. So once Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and all his very exalted sannyasi disciples were doing the parikrama of Radhakund, and they saw that there are many Babajis, very renounced, sitting and doing their bhajan. They were residing on the bank of Radhakund. So one of the sannyasis told Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, oh, there are so many elevated, detached persons here on the banks of Radhakund. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur clasped his hand and started laughing. Oh, all are Kanishta Bhikaris, he said. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because of his spiritual vision, could see everything. So he denounced very heavily, and he very heavily criticized, very heavily spoke against these Babajis who were giving Siddha Pranali. That's why they were very against him. And even now also sometimes, if you go on the bank of Radhakund, they sometimes, these people criticize Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That's why we should be very careful not to speak to them because we feel that, oh, they are residing there. Let me go and ask them. Maybe they'll give us some confidential knowledge. And sometimes they can be very heavy and they can criticize. especially our bona fide acharyas. So we should be very careful. So they thought that, whether he actually thought Raganuga sadhana at all. Most certainly he did so. Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur taught Bhakti Siddhanta writes. So he writes, we should not mistakenly consider Anarth Nivritti as Prayojan, for one thus surmising can never enter into Artha Pravritti. Artha Pravritti is, Anarth Nivritti is one, overcoming the Anarthas, but there is Artha Pravritti on the other hand. That is Raganuga Sadhana. Therefore, I will begin speaking about Ashtakaliya Leela, the eightfold pastimes which happen. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is speaking. Let those who have chanted Harinam for 15 or 20 years hear such topics. So this was the criteria he set. Do not think that Ashtakaliya Leela is the property of Prakat Sahajiyas. It is actually our affair. So sometimes, many times whenever I had gone to do parikrama at Govardhan, especially I like to sit wherever the samadhis of the acharyas are there, and especially if it is a little secluded place, just to sit and chant. So once I was sitting near Vishwanath Chakra Thakur samadhi, which is near Shamkund, and I was chanting, and one devotee wearing Radha Kuntalak, he was giving a live lecture on his mobile camera, showing the Radha Kund. And I was just hearing his description. All his description was not more philosophical, but more like esoteric. First. Secondly, now this is time. Now Krishna is herding the cows and is coming back. All these descriptions he's giving of the Ashtakali Leela, I felt this is all farce. Without having the purification and realization, nobody will speak also these things. So it has become they have taken it sahaja. So it is actually our affair. It has to be retrieved from the hands of those cheaters. This is Siddhanta Thakur is saying. Let us briefly examine some of the strongest evidence that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was teaching the inner path of Raganuga Bhakti. So let us go to that evidence where Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is taught the inner path. First, we can study the Gaudiya Math logo, which Bhakti Siddhanta designed himself, and which was on every issue of his official magazine. How many of you know the Gaudiya Math logo? Raise your hands. How many of you know the ISKCON logo? First, raise your hands. 1, 2. I should see all the hands raised. There are few hands which are still not raised. Geeta Mataji, you know the logo of ISKCON? Not present, that's all.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, what is it?
How to describe?
You can just explain the
Lotus.
And it's in the center?
Yeah. It is having the tilak
Tilak.
in the middle and
The whole of the is there. Yes. So how many of you now, you can lower your hands. How many of you know the logo of Gaudiya Math? Okay. There's one hand raised. Okay. Sunita Mataji. Yes. Yes, Sunita Mataji. I've unmuted you.
Prabhuji, I don't know actually, but I was trying to lower the hand. I couldn't. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, let's today now know the logo of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's math, which he himself designed. Lord Chaitanya is at the top, and the words Guru and Gaudiya, the later indicating the Sangha, a group of devotees, at the bottom. Lord Chaitanya is on top, and the Guru and Gaudiya on the bottom. In the middle is the holy name Om Namah, as truly the center of everything. Chanting is the center of everything. Counterclockwise from the top, on the left half of the circle is the word Vidhi, devotional practice impelled by scripture and logic. Clockwise from the top, on the whole right half of the circle is the word Rag. The Vidhi half contains the book of Pancharatra and the rules of deity worship. It is Pancharatra, not Pascha. By mistake it has happened. The Lord and his consort are pictured in the left side as Lakshmi Narayan, followed by a bell, incense, and a word Archana, deity worship. The Rag half contains the book of Bhagavatam, the stories and philosophy of Krishna, his devotee Radha Krishna, followed by a mridang drum and printing press along with the word Kirtan chanting the holy name. So this is all what it contains, the logo. The inner points of the star have the words Yasha, fame, Shri, Gyan, Vairagya, Aishwarya, Virya, the 6 opulences. Now you see on the top there is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. On the bottom there is the Tilak, Guru Gaudiya. And then there is on the left side Vidhi, right side Rag. On the counterclockwise left there is Pancharatra Vidhi, and there is opposite Archana, bell, the incense. And then on the right side clockwise Bhagavatam, there is Kirtan, and you can see there is a printing press. And then in the center is Om Namah and the 6 opulences. So this is the logo of the Gaudiya Math. So please see this. Although in our temple the deities are Radha and Krishna, not Lakshmi Narayan, but we consider them as Lakshmi Narayan and worship by the rules and regulations. Please, we should remember that. First thing. Now, have you seen this logo in any of our ISKCON centers? Any entrance of ISKCON center? Anywhere have you ever seen it? Think about it carefully. Yes, Mataji has raised her hand. Yes, Mataji.
Mayapur.
Mayapur, yes, wonderful. Mayapur, yes, Mayapur. From the logo, it is clear Bhakti Siddhanta's process of Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is based on the holy name and on Shastra such as Srimad Bhagavatam, with the aim of pleasing Radha Krishna and obtaining their shelter. So Raganuga Sadhana is there because holy name and Srimad Bhagavatam. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada used the same Gaudiya Math logo on the gate of ISKCON property in Mayapur, West Bengal. Here, he writes about the principle behind the logo and then speaks about the logo itself. So Bhakti Prabhupada spoke about the logo in one of his lectures. So we will hear that. So you can see that logo is here. I could not get a still clearer picture, and you can see it is here. So this is how Prabhupada followed the mood of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Prabhupada in one lecture is saying, neophyte devotees worship Lord according to Pancharatrika Vidhi or the regulated principles enjoined in the Narad Pancharatra. Radha Krishna cannot be approached by neophyte devotees. Therefore, temple worship according to regulated principles is offered to Lakshmi Narayan. In the mood of Lakshmi Narayan, it is offered, not in the mood of Radha and Krishna. Although Radha Krishna deities are there. Although there may be Radha Krishna Vigraha or form, the worship of the neophyte devotees is acceptable as Lakshmi Narayan worship. Worship according to the Pancharatra Vidhi is called Vidhi Marg, and worship according to the Bhagavad Vidhi principles is called Rag Marg. The principles of Rag Marg are especially meant for devotees who are elevated to the Vrindavan platform. So movement in the heart, attraction comes exclusively for Vrindavan, chanting the holy names. There is spontaneous Kabe Habe Hani Shri Vrindavan, starts coming, then slowly the adhikar for Rag is coming. although in our practices, we are mostly doing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, but there is an element of rag in the form of we have some attraction that, when I go to Mayapur, I like Mayapur, Radha Madhav, or I like Vrindavan Shyam Sundar, or Radha Gopinath, or Radha Govind Dev. So we have attraction to visit the dhams. We have some attraction for some kind of services with respect to the deity worship. I like to do it by garlands for the Lord, or we have attraction a little bit for chanting. So there is an element of rag within our Vaidhi practice, but we cannot say that we are fully practicing Raganuga sadhana. That is the point also we should remember. The inhabitants of Vrindavan are actually on Rag Marg or Bhagavad Marg platform. They participate in the 5 basic rasas, Dasya, Satya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, and Shanta. The inhabitants, the eternal associates, Prabhupada is mentioning here. My Guru Maharaj introduced, you have seen the, what is called the signia. One side Pancharat Vidhi, one side Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada is speaking about his Guru Maharaj logo. That is, I have seen that Gaudiya Math emblem, yes. And so actually Bhagavad Marg is very strong. That is sufficient. So you can just practice 24 hours chanting, 24 hours reading Bhagavatam. Then you need not practice the Vedi Marg. But we cannot do that. We have conditioned body. So our conditioned nature has to be engaged slowly, that we can purify our conditioning and transcend the conditioning. And when you are on the transcendental platform, then you can do continuous bhajan, Nirantara Naam Loy. Then Raganuga Sadhana begins, the Bhagavad Marg. But without Pancharati Vidhi, this polluted body, polluted mind of the devotee cannot be purified. So it happens when you get purified by the Pancharatra Vidhi, then you can chant Namabhas, and then you can chant Shuddhanam. Okay, so I will stop here because time is up. But any questions up till now, if you have, I can take it up. Any questions, any clarifications? I hope the emphasis on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Raganuga Sadhana within his logo and Prabhupada emphasizing it's clear. Yes, Sunita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes.
I have to say that, if a person practices insistent chanting the whole day and all, and he has his deities also. So in that case, if the deities are neglected, for example, he cannot practice the Vaidhi Bhakti properly. That is a sadhana level. So is that an aparadha?
Well, it is very rare to find someone who can incessantly chant. That's first thing. Secondly, when we say incessantly chant, we speak about attentive chanting, where there is so much rasa that you cannot give up chanting. This only happens at the stage of ruchi. So, but if we are chanting our regular rounds, that is minimum 16, then we should build our rounds successively in blocks of four attentive rounds, and then slowly over a period of time, with the development of taste and carefully examining, introspecting our chanting, that we are very attentively chanting, then we should keep on building, and a balance is required because there is the material body, and the material body has its needs, and slowly, like the weighing scale, you need to balance this. As your bhajan increases, your bhojan will become simpler and it will become lighter, more, so like that, even the sleep. So it has to be done with very fine precision. So I don't know. I have not seen any practical examples where somebody is doing insistent bhajan and at that point he can neglect deity worship. I knew of one sannyasi who left this world, very dear. I will speak about it. His Holiness Gaur Krishnadas Goswami Maharaj was incessantly, studying the Bhagavatam and giving Bhagavad Katha. He used to just move from one place to another place and then give kathas. And then he used to come back to Vrindavan and then stay for some time, study, and then again travel. And he spoke on the entire 12 cantos in the form of summary. And he was preparing for giving now Gita, entire 18 chapters. And his servant who was assisting him, he personally told me, so I have a first-hand evidence. That's why I'm telling you that while preparing for the Gita, he was studying Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on the Gita, Sarartha Varshini. And 23 hours he was studying the Gita, so much absorbed. And the servant got him prasad. Please have some food. And he looked at the servant, take this away. Get lost, he said. So much he was nourishing the internal rasa that he did not feel external, any food for the body, because so much the food for the soul was tasting nectar. So this is very exalted platform. So I would suggest that there is a balance required and one has to carefully work under one spiritual mentor to understand. Otherwise, there is chance of deviations. I hope this is satisfactory to you, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Any other questions? Okay, so we will stop now. We will continue this article and tomorrow we'll complete this article. It's a very important article. Tomorrow we'll further discuss the points. Hare Krishna. Shri Manah Shiksha ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami ki Jai. Hare Krishna.